Welcome to Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, the creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. For the past 9 years, I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I started raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott. For the past 9 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself, and I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned on this journey. As the Alternative Dog Moms, we're bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and sharing the tips, tricks, and resources we learn along the way. Now, let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin.
It has been a time over here.
It's like you had a stressful week and I had a relaxing week.
Yeah.
I loved taking a week off. It was nice and I didn't have anything to do. And I took Thursday and Friday off. And so I just walked the dogs and cleaned the house and you're dealing with stuff.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my.
So how are the puppies? Even though they're not puppies.
As of right now, they're good. I feel like we've had a drama lately. Nino and Nessie are back to not really being allowed to interact with each other. It's mostly because we believe that Nessie resource guards our sofa area. So that resulted in a snafu, we'll call it. Nobody was injured or anything. Nobody was bit or anything, but it was scary. And so anyway, we're back to gate, crate, and rotate around here. And, I brought her to work with me one day and my boss just loves her. And she's, she's so great on her own. It's just sharing space, with another dog. She wants to be the only dog,
Yeah.
And then we had a tick on Nino, and then that had me all upset.
That picture you sent me was intense.
Yes, it was awful. So I saw it on Wednesday night, but I thought it was a scab because he has, or a mole, because he has something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's that thing. And then the next morning I woke up and it looked like that. So, just overnight it looked like that. And I'm like, oh, because usually Tim is the tick master finder, and I'm freaking out. And, then when you get upset, Nino gets upset and he's being very uncooperative. And it was kind of up in his groin, in the juncture of his thigh and his groin area. And so he was not being super cooperative about trying to get to it. And we ended up, we were able to remove it. I have this tick bite oil that I keep on hand that kills things off. And I have ozone cream that we keep on hand. And so within a couple days, it looked much, much better. I did the homeopathic lead 'em, even though Dr. Jeff was kind of I don't know if that's the right thing for that, but fingers crossed, we're going to have him tested in a few weeks because I've never seen him have a reaction like that. Because and it was not super engorged. It was not super embedded. It was not very big, and they get silvery looking when they have drank a lot of blood. It was not like that at all. It was still very tiny, but I've just never seen him have a reaction like that. Our vet said that it could just be because it's such a sensitive skin area. Yeah. But I think we maybe the mouth was left under his skin because there's still kind of this lump there. I don't know. It's been a big mess. I've been all upset and stressed out about it. My poor guy. And then he had to wear the donut in the crate for a few days and he hates that. And he looks like, what did I do to deserve this?
I know.
Oh, you poor guy. So, and then we had, one of my big volunteer events this past weekend, and it just rained the entire day. There's nothing like being out in the rain with 103 other dogs in a park. Our previous event was the craziest, windiest day ever. So I was like, why does Mother Nature hate us? So yeah, it's been a couple of weeks over here, man.
Yeah, we had a lot of rain, and I actually welcomed it. I mean, again, I work from home, so the rain just doesn't bother me. Plus, I always call it was my mail carrier and I were talking about it. It's like, it's Pacific Northwest rain. It's really not that big of a deal. The only time you actually really need an umbrella, and it has to be a golf size umbrella, is if you're standing outside for an extended period of time, like if you're watching a game or something. Otherwise, it's a waste of time to have an umbrella because it's just one more thing that's going to be wet.
Yeah.
And so lots of rotating towels to dry dogs off.
Yes.
Apollo does not like to wear a coat. And so if I pull out one of his coats, it doesn't annoy me because it's my fault. But I went through a period of time where I decided the dogs all needed really cool coats. And so we have tons of them. And while they're not crazy expensive, they're not cheap, and he will not. I have to basically trick him, and just sort of hide the coat someplace, and then just get him into an area that just okay, here's a coat on you, and he just feels miserable. And so I just decided the only reason why I put a coat on him is because I don't have to dry him off as much. But he's actually a really good dog to dry off because he understands that. Dry, and then I step back, he shakes. Dry, I step back, he shakes. And so he understands the routine. And I'm going to have to dry him because the coat doesn't cover every inch of him. So I'm going to have to dry him. So it's big deal. He's miserable. I won't make him be miserable. So I have all these really nice coats that I won't get rid of because one day maybe he'll love them. And they're very cute. And he has matching collars. He's just very stylish dog. Today I met a dog that was a pure golden retriever. And now I can't remember. I think it was Bocce. I think the dog's name is Bocce. I walked Apollo this morning, and on our walk, I saw a yellow, piece of a yellow sign on the ground. And I came up to it and I'm like, that's my sign. And then I looked ahead and there were two more pieces. So someone took a sign off our property, broke it into thirds, and then I guess just dropped it along on the trail.
Oh.
So I picked them up and to take them back home. And my friend made the signs for me. They were just it was one that says, loose dogs, caution, loose dogs. And the other one says no trail access. So I just went and got new ones and I was putting them out in the yard. And as I was doing that, I saw this guy walking a golden retriever. And the golden retriever looked at me and I waved, and it was the golden retriever was like, hey. And so the guy's looking at his eye. He's like, what are you doing? What are you trying to tell me? And I finally get his attention. And I was like, can I say hi to your dog? And he was like, oh, you're what he's trying to tell me. And so I go and I was just and he was like, are you sure? And I was like, well, I have a husky golden mix. And he's like, oh, okay, good. Because this dog was Apollo on steroids. First of all, he had to be at least 100 pounds. I would even give him 110 pounds. And he was jumping at me and I mean, everything that Apollo does, but I feel like Apollo has a little bit of finesse to him. So he's not knocking people over. He just, he does jump, but he's a gentle jumper. This dog was like, I love you. But this dog also had a really good recall because the dog slipped his leash and took off running. And the guy called him back, and he turned around and came right back and stopped to have his leash put back on. And I was just so jealous of that. But that was a highlight of my day. So we've had different weeks.
Very. Oh, the other thing is that Nessie discovered a hole in our fence.
Oh.
That apparently was chewed by rabbits, we're imagining. And it's hidden by some bushes, so we never saw it. Unfortunately, even though she can get through the hole in the fence, it doesn't really lead to anywhere except another fence. Mm-hmm. But there's this area that's basically the length of our yard, which is a good length, but it's only about 2 feet wide between our fence and the neighbor's fence. But she keeps slipping back there and running to chase after rabbits. So that's at first we couldn't figure out how she was getting back there. And then my husband went out there, with like a flashlight and was like looking all between the bushes, and we found where the hole is in the fence. We thought she was somehow getting over it, but it turns out like she was getting through it.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's just like, oh my God.
Bella chased a rabbit the other day. And I was worried that she was going to race out to the road because she was not listening. But then the rabbit veered off, and so she did too. And then she immediately came back to me. So I was just like, oh, you and I are going to work on some recall this weekend. That wasn't okay. And the deer family, there's a deer family of 3. They had a baby. There's now 4. And so they came through the property yesterday. The dogs were like going crazy. I was upstairs cleaning the carpets and the dogs are going crazy. So I stopped and came down to find out what's going on. And then I was like, oh my God, grabbed my phone and I followed them. I was just sort of like quietly following them as either outside or in the house to get video of them. I've lived here in this house for almost 14 years. Gosh, yeah. I think it'll be 14 years, I think, next month in June, I think. I don't know. But anyway, I still get excited when the deer come through.
I would too.
It's so fun. So yeah, that was really exciting to see. Yeah, so my garden is growing. I'm going to plant my garden this weekend. And so I'm really excited. I went a little crazy. I have pretty much every vegetable known to man trying to grow because I didn't think anything would grow, but I think everything except for my parsley sprouted. And my parsley might have sprouted. I need to go and check, but I'm probably going to start planting tomorrow, just a little bit, because now that the rain has stopped, I'm going to give it time. It's windy today, so I'm a little worried about putting my delicate seedlings. So I just sit them outside for a few hours every day so they can acclimate. But I have no idea what I'm doing, by the way. And so I'm really
You sound like you do.
I know, right?
You could tell me anything and I'd believe you.
I decided, because I used to go and buy starts, but with all the cost of everything going up, it was like, it was going to cost so much money to buy all the starts. And I was just like, I can get organic seeds are buy one, get one free all season at my grocery store. And I can use just some of them and they will last. I could probably have 2 or 3 seasons in a bag of seeds. And so I was just like, I'm just going to see what grows and see what happens. And pretty much, like I said, everything sprouted except for the parsley. I think parsley might have sprouted by now. Even the carrots. Someone told me you can't grow carrots from seeds. I mean, they're not carrots yet, but something sprouted. And I have some, I'm doing it like the fancy way with the little containers and stuff. And then in my garden, because I got rid of a bunch of plants that are spreading like crazy, like my lemon balm takes over my garden. So at the beginning, I clear it away a little bit. And so I had a whole bunch of empty space. And so I decided I'm not going to buy any starts. And I went and just got flower seeds and just put them directly into the ground. And I found one area that's growing. And so I went to the dollar store and there are these little garbage cans, but it's not wicker as some cheap material, but it's see-through all the way around. So I don't know what to call it, but it's kind of like a colander, I guess.
Okay.
But it's all the way around. And so I put that upside down over my new flowers around the garden. I need to go get some more. So, because we have rabbits. Oh, did we talk about this? The fact that Apollo, you murdered a bunny. And so but the rabbits were nibbling on like my tulips and stuff like that. And so, no, you guys stay in there. You guys bark too much. And so I'm putting these over so that the flowers can get established. And so since they are basically the sun can get through it from the top and all around, there isn't any solid plain area. So, and it's so funny because Johan was like, oh my gosh, that was very clever. And I was like, YouTube is a fantastic place where you learn all these wonderful things about gardening.
So Tim was just talking to our neighbor tonight, and they have a 13-year-old Yorkie Chihuahua mix that just killed her first baby bunny this week.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
I know. But we were kind of like, go Molly.
I know.
She's 13 years old, you know? Like,
there you go.
in a weird way, good for her. Not that I want
you
that to happen. But yeah, like, I'm glad she's still able to get after them like that, you know?
I know. Since we have a few bunnies, I'm hoping, I don't know if they have babies. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I have to pay attention to what's going on outside because the dogs that I currently have, their prey drive, especially, well, Apollo he doesn't care. He is going to eat them. But the other two, the girls, their prey drive is a little too high. Like with Scout, we'll go and get the bunny. But if I tell him no, he'll freeze. And then it's like, you drop it and he'll slowly put it down. And so, because they did that there were some bunnies hopping around and Scout had one and Rodrigo had one. And they put them down. And I had this command for all of the dogs where it was like freeze and everyone would just stay still and they would watch me and I would watch them. And so I'm moving slowly to get them in the house. And then I got a towel because I didn't want to put my greasy human fingers on the bunny. And so I got a towel, which afterwards I thought, well, my greasy human fingers and scents are going to be on the towel too. But hopefully the mother won't abandon her bunnies, but she came and got them and moved them somewhere else. So that was good. But yeah, but they're under our deck this year. So.
Hey, quick question for you. Are you someone who wants to be fit, healthy, and happy? And what if I told you could get your dream body by simply just listening to a podcast? I'm Josh.
And I'm KG, and we're the hosts of the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast.
Listen, we get it. Fitness isn't easy. Carbs, no carbs.
Just stop, okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's why we made this podcast. We get straight to the facts so you can become your best you.
So the way to check us out is click the link in the show notes or search Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast on any of the major podcast platforms. We'll see you soon.
Here's a question for you. Do your dogs look upwards when they're outside? Yeah, like if there's like a squirrel up in a tree, like will they see it up there?
Zoe will.
Or because it's something we had noticed about Nessie that's different than other dogs. She is like 360 degrees. Yeah. Like she knows what's going on. If there's something up on a power line or a tree or something, like she's very aware and she actively like looks up. Whereas all of our other dogs, like unless they saw the squirrel run up the tree, they wouldn't think to look up the tree. You know, they would just kind of look straight ahead or down. But Zoe, she
has very, very good hearing. She has horrible eyesight. I swear she's nearsighted, but she has very, very good hearing. And so if she hears something, she'll stop and just kind of do a point where her body will angle. It's like when she looks her best, she looks really slimming and stuff, but she angles her stuff and gets really stiff. And it's so funny because I'll get her attention and she sort of like kind of trots over to me because she's so excited because she sees something. And I'm sitting here staring and it takes forever for me it has to move again for me to see it. And it's just like, so she's seeing, we have chipmunks and squirrels. And so she'll see those. But the other two are just completely oblivious. If we're out on the trail, Bella's looking for the evil bicyclist and Apollo has his nose to the ground. So he's sniffing. He's not even interested. So, but yeah, out of all of my dogs, I think Scout was the same way where he noticed them too. But yes, I kicked my dogs out of the room and now Bella's at one door barking and Apollo's at the other door, just laying there with every now and then doing a quiet whimper.
Mom.
How dare I kick them out?
I have Nessie literally under the desk right now.
And that's what usually where Bella would be. She would be under here, but there's too many. It's a beautiful day. So people are walking and jogging and everything down the trail. And how dare they? How dare they? And that's pretty much the attitude. Bella starts barking. Zoe barks in solidarity. And Apollo just runs and jumps on the couch and starts looking intently out the window to figure out what we're barking about. So it just becomes chaos for a few minutes, and then they quiet down, and then they do it again. And that's been my day all day today. And so, yeah. So, yay. So I would like to start off with 18 minutes in a new podcast that I discovered. Is it called Rawbellious? Yeah, Rawbellious. So they posted, I followed them on Instagram, and they posted that they were, had episode 1, and it was so good. I mean, so good. I was listening to it while because also I bought myself a carpet cleaner. My birthday was last week. So for my birthday, I bought myself a carpet cleaner and a gardening kit.
Oh,
because,
wow.
I treated myself. Johan forgot my birthday. So again, but I don't really care. But so while I was playing around with the carpet cleaner, I just had them in my ears, and I was just like, this is so good. It was like, I wish they lived here, because I was like, let's go to lunch, because you guys are my people. Every single thing that they were saying was just stuff that I loved hearing, stop making things so complicated, and
stay out of Facebook groups.
Yes, there's a space for, traditional and holistic. And, I just really, really loved it. And I learned something, and now I want to look into it. Is one of them was talking about the one that has huskies, was talking about the husky that wasn't doing well and was stressed. So ended up with a zinc deficiency. And I never thought about the impact of stress and what it would have on our dog's absorption of nutrients. And so it's like, now I'm going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, they're kind of like us with British accents.
Yes, I know.
Which is always just makes it like a classier listen, I feel like.
Right? I was just like,
my Baltimore
right. I don't get why it is that I love British accents so much, but there's something about an accent where, like, I started following someone gave me a follow, and so I followed back, and it's a new account, and it's someone, I think it's like a farm veterinarian. I don't know what you would call that. It's not just a dog and cat veterinarian. And he's starting his own dog food company. And so they bought a farm, and they have all these animals on the farm. And I think he has like maybe 7 posts on Instagram so far. So I listened to one of his videos, and again, accent. And I'm just like, of course he's right. Of course he has an accent. Dr. Will Maginnis. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's Dr. Will Maginnis on Instagram. And so he's about to create a bunch of content about, and he has dogs as well, but he's going to create a bunch of content about raw feeding. And so I'm looking forward to that. But again, I don't know what it is about an accent. I mean, I'm curious, like, do people in other countries hear an American accent and go, oh, ooh.
Well, I'm always curious, like, can they, obviously, like, there's a Southern accent, there's like a Texas accent, there's a Boston accent. Like, do other people in other countries, can they tell the difference like we can,
Oh, I know, because that's the other thing is I can't really tell the difference between, well, when something is pointed out, as far as like the Cockney and the different areas of the UK, and I can tell, like, only because this is the first person that comes to mind, Posh Spice sounds different than, I don't know, some other,
the other ones. Yeah.
There's an actor that is and I don't know if this is what his real accent is, but he was in the biopic of Elton John. So it was the actor that was in the biopic of Elton John. So, his accent in that other movie versus Posh Spice, clearly different areas of London. Then also there's the time, because, there's when you do historical stuff, people sound a little differently and stuff. So who knows? Anyway, so let's look at your list, your wonderful list, because you keep us so much on track. Oh, I was trying to think if I've seen green Juju food in my pet stores, specifically also their new mushroom
product.
And I was just at the pet store last week. And I know that I looked at the area, but I was on a mission of specifically of what I needed to get and then get out of there. And then probably the next day I was just like, oh, I forgot to look to see if it was there. So I don't know if it's in my store or not. I feel like it should be because they're just down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing pictures all over Instagram of their new frozen raw food line, and I'm like, it's not here yet.
I want to give it a try.
Absolutely.
I'm doing I'm putting together gift baskets again for our annual auction for the dogs. And I reached out to Kelly and asked her, I said, I want to put together a green Juju basket. So she's sending me an entire array of things. At first, I was going to put one of her things because I have to do 10 baskets and I was going to put something in each basket. But I've changed my mind and I'm going to make just a huge green Juju basket and make it like awesome. a gardening type of theme basket, but with their food in it. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yay. I bid on that.
Definitely.
So lawsuits. Yes, this is a lawsuit time.
Yeah, after we talked to Daniel, I've seen a couple more lawsuits in the news lately. So one of them is newly filed about the Pup-peroni, which I gag when I say it.
I don't think that was real beef.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the packaging, it does say first ingredient is real beef.
Really?
Yeah. And I saw it in the store recently. I purposely looked for it when I was in Target recently to see what it says, and it does say real beef. And so there's a consumer fraud lawsuit basically saying that, when I hear real beef, I think it's human grade and that I'm feeding my dog something that's a quality product.
Oh, I guess technically they can just say real beef if it actually is beef. It's not talking about the quality of the beef.
Right.
Guys, it just astounds me because these companies do these things and they know how much we love our animals.
And that is the first thing that it says in the lawsuit, actually.
Really? They know how much we love our animals and they treat us like this and they lie to us. And, it's a wonder. I got 2 questions today independently from each other, 2 different people about brands. And I told both people, just go ahead and contact the brand because it's I don't know. But if you contact the brand, they'll let you know. But then afterwards, I was thinking, how many people, because I'm at first, why would they ask me? I don't know anything about their products. But then it's just so many people have been let down so many times by pet brands that they don't really trust that they'll get an honest answer.
Absolutely. And I feel like people don't know what questions to ask or what information to look for, whether it's on the ingredient panel or something, because I see that all the time. I see that question in Facebook groups all the time, and it always makes me cringe a little bit because it'll be do we like this brand? And I'll kind of be just make up your own mind for your damn self.
Yeah.
But I guess I realize people just don't know. They know they're supposed to be able to discern something, but they don't know exactly what.
And it's become more and more obvious lately because I had someone tell me that I need to be careful about sharing recipes because I tell people, because I share my recipes. I don't share recipes for other people to try. I share recipes to give people ideas of this is what you can feed to your dogs. And I make sure to put that in there. And I know that people aren't going to care about the disclaimer. They're just going to be ooh, recipe. But, in the recipe, I say this much kelp. But I also link to a specific kelp product. Golly, can you guys not bust down the doors? But one of the issues that I have is with kelp is a lot of people will get the now product for humans. And the concentration of the kelp, is it kelp? Yeah, kelp for iodine. The concentration in that product is significantly higher than the one that's formulated for pets. So while I'm saying add this amount for this meal, I'm not saying run out and buy human, but that's not intuitive to a lot of people. That, if you're going to follow this recipe and they offer products, I'm not offering these products because I get commission, I'm offering because this is what I use and this is what I'm going to recommend. And if you're going to change that, you need to get a new formulation. You need a new recipe. It's the same thing of people I've had people email me to say, hey, I saw your beef recipe. Can I just swap the beef for pork or turkey and have it? And it's like, no, that's not how it works. It has to be an entirely, and I don't think it changes that much, but if you're going to follow a recipe, it's like, you want to follow an appropriate recipe. And because I'm very, willy-nilly, I guess that's something. I'm just very casual about how I feed my dogs. I just, I don't worry about, I'm not all stressed out about, balance. And if they're getting I feel very comfortable that what I've done and what I've learned from my dogs, I'm able to cover that. But I still see people asking all of these questions where, oh my God, I fed my dogs eggs twice this week. Should I not have done that? And I'm just sitting here I've gotten to the point where sometimes it's like if I add too little information to a post, then I get a bunch of questions because people don't understand what I did and they want to know what I did. If I add way too much information to a post, then people overanalyze and they think they're doing everything wrong because, like for instance, I don't like to feed my dogs cold food. And people are like, oh my God, I've been feeding my dogs cold food. Is that going to be bad? Is my dog going to get sick? And it's just like, no. This is for my dogs. It's a personal blog. This is about what I do for my dogs. If you don't want to do what I do, it's perfectly okay. And, but it's really hard to find a middle ground where you're empowering people to figure out how to feed their dogs and have them be comfortable and confident about that. Because it does take time, while also trying to share. Because I don't want to tell people what to do. I just want to share what I'm doing to give people ideas. And it's just a really shaky ground to walk on.
That whole thing with the cold food is interesting because for a long time, I did feed their food cold and it was never a problem and I didn't think anything of it. But as Nino's gotten older, and especially this past going on a year now where he's had like some kind of weird stomach issue, that's one of the things I've tried. And I found right now, he does do better when it's like more room temperature, or if I mix it with warm water or something, and let it sit for a little bit. Whereas for years when he was younger, it never made any difference, So that's like,
well, that's just it. Is that someone told me it's like sometimes I feed my dogs like frozen or partially frozen food, or frozen bones, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think there's just so many factors. Not all dogs are the same. If I lived in Arizona, I'd probably be feeding cold food in the summertime,
right.
And it's just like, but, it just really depends. I don't cook for my dogs. I don't feed them hot food in the summertime. I don't feed them hot proteins in the summertime. So I did a huge meal prep last week. Half of it has lamb organs and half of it has pork organs. And I had to thaw out some food. And I was just like, I need to get the pork organs because it's going to be 80 degrees this weekend. But when it cools down, if it's cooler, the next time pheasant comes around, I'll do the lamb. But, they may not get into that lamb until after the summer. It might sit in the freezer all summer. But it's just, I also have a freezer full of venison because I forgot to delay an order. And so that's something that, again, and also, I can add in a cooling protein to cool it down and have, there's all these things. And then there, of course, people hear that and they're like, oh, should I be doing that too? And it's like, not necessarily. It's just it's what I do to help me remember all the stuff that I do and to have a good routine. And that's just what I use to have my routine. But it's not the law of raw feeding.
Right.
It's just like, I feel like they have all these raw feeding models, and then within each model, they sprout off to these individual models. And, because I feel like I feed a barf model, but, with prey model influence and a little science-based.
And I also just think if your dog is doing well with whatever it is that you're doing, that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
don't
don't need to
stop.
worry about what everybody else is doing,
Yeah.
If they start having a problem, then that's where, to me, it's interesting to be like, okay, what are my different options? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to try this option and just try changing like one thing at a time, and
Yeah.
seeing how the dog reacts and does before you change the next thing, And so I like always having, if something goes wrong, like having all the different options out
Yeah.
there, and all the different roads to go down. But yeah, if your dog's doing well with whatever it is that you're doing, like, that's awesome. Keep
It's like,
doing
don't help
it.
shake the boat. Don't
And
rock the
don't,
boat.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
don't stress about what everybody
I
else is
think
doing.
that's what really concerns me about social media and the raw feeding space is I know that, I am 100% convinced that every single person has the best of intentions. But whenever I see people, someone mentions either that they feed kibble or they're going to have to go back to kibble. And either the comment of, I'm not going to support you in doing that. So, it's wrong. Kibble is bad. I've explained to you why it's bad. And if you're still going to do that, I'm not going to support you in doing that. Or you're just harming your dog, the overt, like you're harming your dog and that's a horrible kibble. And I can't believe you're doing this. Those type of steps, I now stay out of those discussions because I made a rule that I'm not going to do that. It's just horrible for my mental health to even be involved. But I still look at those and wonder, are you going to pay this person's bills? Are you going to help them be able to afford raw? Are you going to be there on hand when their dog isn't doing so well? Because I've heard stories of dogs that just simply don't do well on a raw food diet, or simply where the people live, they don't have access to the things that I, for instance, have access to. I'm very careful about, I'll share where I buy things and how I'm able to cut costs, but I also understand that, I am so lucky because like a couple of weeks ago, the connections I've made with friends, one of my friends messaged me and said, hey, I know someone whose freezer broke down. They have a freezer full of grass-fed beef. It's fine. It never thawed, but they're worried about eating it. And they were just going to throw it away. Do you want it? Hell yeah, I want it. Now, I now have a freezer full of ground beef and all these different types of steaks. And another person who raises cows, sold all her cows for, meat and had them butchered. And I just happened, we were at a party and a birthday party. And I asked, what do you do with the organs? And she said, sometimes people will take the tongue, but the rest of them no one wants. And I was just like, I'll buy them if they're still available. She sold everything to me. I don't remember how many pounds. 90 pounds for 90 cents a pound. I think, or 100 pounds for 90 cents a pound or something like that. So it's just like, and now
you're a lot of fun at parties.
Yeah, that's where I live. I have that option and I have these connections and I know all these people. And there are times when I have to turn food away because I don't have the freezer space. What's even better is I actually know people who have huge freezers and they'll let me borrow freezer space for a time if I need it. So it's like right now I'm going through my freezer to clear it out and I'm just making dog treats. But unfortunately, they have to go back into the freezer after I make them. So I can only make so many dog treats and I need to make bone broth and stock up on my bone broth. But I have access to, we have in my area, 4 different ethnic markets. And that's just in my immediate area. I can go and find even more. I have a restaurant supply store. I have 2 outlet grocery stores.
And you have like the world's best co-op.
Yeah, exactly. We have an amazing co-op. We have an amazing pet store. We have everything that we need. And then, of course, as a blogger, I have opportunities that way because, like, for instance, Oma's Pride, the reason why I was introduced to them is because they reached out to me and said, hey, you want some sardines? Because I was complaining about not being able to get fresh sardines. The only option that I have is a 50-pound case. And that is a pain. It doesn't sound like it's too much.
That because sounds like a lot.
Yeah. Well, I always thought that, 50 pounds and it's frozen. So that's why it's 50 pounds. But no, that's not why it's 50 pounds. And it is a lot. It takes up half of a freezer. And I just don't have the freezer space for it. And I can split the order with someone, but arranging time for us to sit down and split it out and stuff, it's a pain in the neck. So I just started doing the canned sardines. And when they reached out to me, and they didn't offer them for free, but they gave me a credit on an account so that I would have free shipping. I went to town. And now it turns out, because my local pet store was looking for a source because she wanted to sell sardines out of the store. So she connected with them, and now I can just get them at my local pet store. So I'm like, I have sardines. I'm so excited. So yeah, I have like really great resources. And so I can't be, looking at people like, you have no excuse.
And you've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
To develop all of these, networks.
Exactly. For someone who just discovered raw feeding in the past few months, it's a lot to ask them to rearrange their entire life. I've had, basically 11 years to get freezers at a good price and know where to get those. And I've gone through, I got my freezers when we weren't in the middle of a crazy economy.
Right.
And, we have a appliance recycling outlet place here. So I was able to get new or gently used freezers that had been refurbished and at a fraction of the cost that they would be on retail. Not everyone has that type of option. I have a garage where they can fit. I have space for them. Not everyone has that. I mean, there's just so many things that I have. And I always have to remind myself that, it's not, I don't really have to remind myself. I just have go from a space of, I know how lucky I am. And I remember when I was brand new, I had no idea what I was doing. I was freaked out. I thought it was way too expensive. I didn't think I would be able to do it. I did tons of things wrong for the first 2 years. My dog survived. And, I did the best I could, and I kept educating myself. And now I have a plan. But it's interesting to me because every now and then I'll get a message from someone that's like, oh, well, oysters aren't species appropriate. And it's like, yeah, you're probably right. I don't really see any wolves out there shucking oysters and eating them for the zinc. You're probably right. But it's like, I go back and forth. Well, we're not raising wolves. We're raising domesticated dogs. But then on the flip side, I'm trying to replicate the diet of their ancestral diet, which is based on the gray wolf. So it's like, and that's confusing to someone who's new to raw because it's like, well, which is it? There you go. So there's no beef and pepperoni. Prescription diets aren't a thing, which that lawsuit surprised me. And I was glad that you said that it's been going on since 2017. Because I was like, I thought they had debunked that. Because someone told me, they told me on Instagram and they got angry and blocked me. But someone told me that prescription diets aren't real. And I can't remember if it was Dogs Naturally magazine or if it was Susan Thixton who examined the ingredients in a prescription diet and then their regular comparable diet. And it was basically the same ingredients.
And none of it is medicinal or anything that would need to be controlled by the FDA or by a prescription, which is the basis of the lawsuit.
And they're charging a ton more because it's a quote unquote prescription diet.
And then there's like other things about trade and how, kind of like a monopoly type thing where people are forced into it and stores and chains force people into it.
And I don't know, did you say that or did I read that somewhere else where I think, was it Hills that was trying to, I think I read that in an article recently. Hills was trying to trademark prescription diets. Either Hills or one of the other brands was trying to trademark prescription diets. I really think it was Hills. If it's not Hills,
it is Hills.
Okay, good. It's like, don't sue me. Leave me alone. I can be wrong. And it's just sort of like, that just sounds shady too. But then what's funny is on the flip side, I have a friend who is a vet tech, and I always call her like a super vet tech. And I don't know, because I feel like she's more than a vet tech, but not quite a veterinarian, but she's who I go to for everything. And my dogs go to her clinic and they do traditional medicine. And I asked her this weekend, it's like, what are your favorite products? I asked her, what are your favorite Purina products? And she said they're probiotic. She loves their probiotic. And she listed two of what I would call kind of, they don't call them prescription diets, but they're specialized diets. So there's one for gut health, and I can't remember what the other one was for. And so these diets are helping the dogs that are on them, in some cases. And, there's a question of, is it just putting a Band-Aid on a problem, or is it really helping long-term? I don't know. And so that's why I got blocked, was because it's like, I can understand why someone would feed their dogs one of those diets, because if their dog is not doing well and then they put their dog on this diet and now their dog is doing well, I can understand why they would want to stick with that, because not everyone is where we are. They're not even thinking about that. And they have a veterinarian that they trust who recommended this food, and now it's working. So I can totally understand why people would do it. I hope that I'm never in a position where I feel like I have to do that. I have 3 very healthy dogs, and I'm very happy about that. And anytime my dogs have had health issues, I have been able to address them through diet and supplementation. So I haven't had to do that. But I can kind of understand. But the whole point of me saying this is, I thought that in California, they had made some type of law where they weren't allowed to call these diets prescription diets anymore.
That I don't know about. I just, the lawsuit I heard about is going on in Chicago, and it was filed back in 2017, but it's gone through all these different motions and all this different appeals. And now it's back in the trial court, and there's like some big things being argued, like literally were just filed last week, and the judge would be ruling on those hopefully over the summer. And potentially the case could be going to like trial this fall. And so I thought that was kind of exciting. And I guess if people have bought prescription diets in the past, and you can actually become part of this lawsuit, especially if you feel like it didn't help your dog. But I think kind of anybody, I think, is eligible to become like part of the class action.
Yeah. In 2020, the California Court of Appeals found there was sufficient evidence to allege that the sale of prescription pet foods through vets or veterinary approval was a deceptive practice, and it could be considered fraud because there were sufficient facts to show these foods were not materially different to normal dog foods. In 2019, Hills had the biggest food recall ever. That was the vitamin D recall. Evidence of how deceptive these diets are is now coming out in canine nutrition research. Oh, wow, this is really bad. Vet foods used for food elimination diets contain ingredients that weren't on the label. That's not good, especially if you're doing an elimination diet.
Yeah.
Vet diets used for weight loss were deficient in nutrients according to guidelines. This is from the dog nutritionist. This was posted a year ago. But it goes on and has some resources. But I'm going to send this link to you because I'll never be able to find it again. But yeah, that's what I had heard about. I just knew something was the case, but I wonder if this sparked what's happening in Chicago then.
Well, this thing in Chicago has been going
in 2017, right?
Yeah, since 2017, yeah.
But this may have, because it was the Court of Appeals. So who knows when this started?
Yeah. Yeah, because it takes several years for anything with an appeal to happen.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just glad that I don't have to deal with that. It just makes feeding our dogs that much harder.
Yeah. I'm just glad to see like somebody's paying attention to the fact that these things are bullshit.
Well, what I love in your email is that prescription diets are a sham. It's like bullet point. Prescription diets are a sham.
That was my take on it. Yeah.
It's like, how do you really feel? And I don't know about Zoetis stock. I didn't know about their stock falling, but I have seen Dr. Josie Bug was posting a lot about Librela. And it makes me, again, so sad because how many dogs was this tested on before they brought it to market? And and does it really matter? Because, you think about, what is that? What is the collar thing? Seresto, according to, I have never checked this out, but according to Dr. Lori Kozier, who I do believe, they have just like record number of complaints.
Yeah, there was a lawsuit about that recently too.
Yeah, that they settled. And it's just like, clearly they can bring something to market that is dangerous. And, we only find out when our dogs suffer from it and I wonder if part of it is simply because dogs are seen as property, not family. And, they'll just give you some money so you can go get another dog. If it was, you got it from a breeder, they'll give you some money so you can go back to the breeder and get another puppy. If it was a rescue dog, okay, we'll pay the adoption fee for your next rescue, as if they can be so easily replaced.
Yeah, it makes it harder to recover damages. Yeah, because it's considered property.
Yeah. So it's like, on one hand, it's funny because I appreciate that dogs are considered property, because that means if someone tries to take my dog, I can go after them because it's mine. But on the flip side, I think we all understand that dogs are family. The pet food and, just the pet industry in general has been marketing based on that for over a decade. They're the ones that came up with pet parents. You have whether it's the pet industry or the rescue community that came up with, pet guardian instead of pet owner. I remember years ago, there would be arguments between the use of dog owner versus dog mom or fur baby. I mean, you would get slammed from people, and it was dangerous to use these terms, and people had so many feelings about that. And it's interesting today that I never hear about those arguments anymore.
Yeah. I always say dog owner just because it's one of those things that I'm 40 something years old and you've just always said it. But when I think about it, I'll say dog mom. I will never say fur baby.
I used to say fur baby because that was the first rescue. That's the rescue we got Rodrigo and Sydney from. They were called, I think it was it Fur Baby 911 Connection, something like that. Yeah. And so that's where I got fur baby from. It feels a little cringe to say it today. And I use dog mom, like in my hashtags, like I do dog mom life. I mean, we have our podcast as Alternative Dog Moms. It's one of those where it's in a cutesy way.
Yeah. And
type of thing.
I feel like I spend so much time on my dogs the way that moms do with their kids, I'm making up the Kongs, before I leave work, and I gotta schedule the appointments, and I, gotta bring Nessie in the car with me on this day. And, my whole schedule is built around all these things with the dogs and this class and this chiropractor, and it's like, that's how I mean mom, that so much of my life is being centered around my dogs.
And I mean, I think I mean it because, they're such a huge part of my family, and I care for them, like I'm making their meals and making sure I have time in the day to walk them. And then of course, everyone gets a different type of walk, and because I know what each of them does well on, and I'm keeping track of their weight and their diet and their, everything with them. And, I have a dog walker just for one of my dogs because it's his best friend. And I'm going to arrange with him to go on a day trip with him because it's like, I guess he wants to take him someplace. So it's like, all right, if you want to take him, that's all right.
Is he going to be your dog walker's wingman?
It's like, I'm going to go hang out. It's like, if you want to go hang out.
Trying to go meet somebody and, have a cute.
Well, my stepson used to do it when he would come home. I would pack up Apollo a bag, and he would just take Apollo for the day. And I would just be like, try to have him home by 8. And it's just try to have him home by 8 because that's a long day. It's a lot for him. By the time Apollo came home, he was exhausted and would just sleep until noon the next day. But, he would go, he'd get to meet a bunch of people and everyone loved on him. And it's like, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because Mother's Day is coming up this weekend. And I have this funny meme that I love to share where it's a school bus. I think it's a school bus and the meme says over the school bus, Mother's Day, or moms on Mother's Day. And then there's a train that comes by and hits the school bus and it's like dog moms. And I just think it's so funny because I mean, I don't think, we're that bad, but I do remember a time, again, when I was newly a pet blogger where human mom, I feel like, I don't know just moms of human children would get really offended by the term dog mom. And I would get comments on my blog, and this was like my first blog, not Keep the Tail Wagging, but I would get comments on my blog about how offensive it is that I'm using the term dog mom. And you didn't give birth. I spent 18 hours in labor, and I have
not all moms give birth.
And that would be the conversation. There was a woman who wrote an article about, and it was funny because everyone was so offended. I wonder if Jessica remembers this article. I'll have to ask her. Everyone was so offended by this article, but the bloggers, we were like, that was brilliant because the article went completely viral. And this was before we even really used the term viral. And it got hundreds of angry comments from dog owners and people who like adopted children. Cause the article was like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It was going in about, this is what a mom really is. And it was geared towards it was geared towards dog moms. I feel like that's where it started, but I feel like I don't know if she was just like, let's piss off everybody or or what, but I feel like that's what she was like, let's make this as offensive as possible. And so at one point in time, she does say, and I know that you can adopt a child, but it's completely not the same as what I do. And because I breastfed, I mean, I don't remember word for word, but I feel like that there was sort of like a dig towards people. Like, you're going to come here and talk about how, you adopt, but that's not what we're talking about. But it was very kind of dismissive of people who adopted children. And it had, I think, like over 600 comments, and it was insane. But what do we argue about today? I guess
politics,
training collars.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, politics. Yeah. Training collars. Biden's dog keeps biting people.
And then there's that horrible governor woman that like shot and killed her dog or something.
Oh my God. Is that the one that was trending?
Yeah. So she's like from South Dakota.
The governor.
Yeah. I was trying to avoid it, but.
Yeah, I saw it trending and I was just like, I feel like that's not going to be a happy story that's trending, because usually happy stories don't trend.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they have the pinch, they can go viral in the dog lover community, but if it's on X, it's not trending because it's a heartwarming story.
Yeah, I didn't read the article. I just, honestly, most of what I know about it's from Saturday Night Live.
Which is back to being funny again.
Did you see the Beavis and the Butthead?
Yes!
That was like the highlight of my life, because I was such a Beavis and Butthead fan.
I only watch snippets. I only watch snippets of everything. I blame social media for my lack of focus. And I just want to get to the snippets. And when I saw that made me... when he changed seats with the other guy and they introduced each, I mean, I know that this makes no sense to anyone who's listening to this, but it was so funny. It was so funny. But did you see that they went to some type of they were on the red carpet?
Yeah, they went to the movie premiere of Ryan Gosling's movie The Fall Guy as Beavis and Butthead on the red carpet. That was amazing.
I mean, they're just standing there, and the teeth. They did so well. I mean,
I was like the perfect age for Beavis and Butthead when that came out in the 90s. Like, it was like my whole family, it was like a family affair. Like, we loved that. Like,
I loved Beavis in the movie.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I watched that movie so many times.
I know.
And I haven't thought of Beavis and Butthead until that came up, and I just Oh, it was so
That was
funny.
the other thing that was so funny to me about it. Like, it hasn't been in the zeitgeist much recently, you know, and so it was so kind of like random, but like,
I know the only cartoons that I keep up with is South Park, because I actually own all the seasons of South Park. I love South Park so much. I love it so much. I think Trey Parker, Matt Stone?
Yeah.
I think they are brilliant.
They are brilliant.
They are absolutely brilliant. And recently, this is like in the past year, they came out with an episode of, Tolkien, but his name is Tolkien because his name was inspired by the author of Lord of the Rings. And so Stan's going through town and he's just like, so did you know he was named after, R.R. Tolkien? They're like, yeah, what did you think his name was? And he's like, well, I thought it was Token. He's like, why would someone name their child Token? And it's just like, did someone try to get offended? And so they came out with that episode. I mean, the way they handle things, it's just like, just leave them alone. It's just not worth it. And then Daria,
yes. That was my girl.
Daria. Daria was back in Beavis and Butthead time. And I have there's only like five seasons. I was going to say 5 episodes. I think there's only 5 seasons. But I love Daria.
Yes.
And so
that was like, Daria and her friend Jane, that was like my fashion sense in the 90s, my Doc Martens and
yes. Oh my God. Yes. Showing our age. Well, that's okay.
My mom sent me a photo. My nephew went to his first high school dance recently. And, he's a sophomore in high school and his girlfriend is a freshman. And I don't know, it was just like a spring dance. It wasn't like prom or anything. And, I get this picture of the girlfriend and she's wearing cowboy boots with her dress, it's like a short, sparkly little, dress like you'd kind of expect to see. Not a long gown, but a very short one. And my mom's like, oh God, and I thought your Doc Martens with dresses were bad, And she's like, apparently now they do cowboy boots,
Oh man.
Well, before we wrap up, I don't want to lose sight of this new article that was published, which is, so the full name, and I'll put the link in the description for everybody, is Fecal Microbiota Composition, Serum Metabolites, and Markers of Inflammation in Dogs Fed a Raw Meat-Based Diet Compared to Those on a Kibble Diet. And so they actually took I think it's approximately 28 dogs that were fed kibble for a month and 28 dogs that were on a raw diet. And I think they say it's mostly, is it Titan? Is there like a Titan dog food? That was the brand I think that most of the dogs were on. And they tested their, poop and everything, did some animal biome kind of stuff and all these other different tests. And they found that there are certain things, and you can see in the article, it's things like IgA and some of these things that your friends at what's the other poop testing company?
Innovative Pet Labs.
Yes, your friends at Innovative Pet Labs, things like that they would be looking for leaky gut markers. And so while they didn't find a ton of statistically significant differences, what they did find were these inflammatory gut markers were much lower in the raw fed dogs compared to the kibble fed dogs. Now, of course, they don't want to make any big generalizations about this in their conclusions, but it's kind of we've been telling you.
But I'm really curious because it says that so the dogs had to be on either one of the diets for a year or more, more than a year when they were enrolled. But then they kept them feeding on that diet. They tested it for a 28-day period. So you couldn't just start your dog on raw and then enter the study.
Right.
So I'm curious if, it made me think about people who still do feed kibble. If you get a dog and you're feeding kibble, and if you start adding things whether it'd be cool, if they had a third group. I mean,
a hybrid.
But a hybrid where it's either a hybrid diet, you're just adding fresh food to kibble. it would be really curious to see how that would impact those gut markers as well. Because would it be in the middle, or would it lean more towards fresh food? It would be really interesting to see.
It was great to see this, and that I didn't recognize any of the names of the authors as people who have been identified with bad science. It doesn't mean I'm familiar with these names, but it wasn't any of the known names that, have recently been linked to the bad science.
Someone in the study is named Erin. Is it you?
That was not me.
But it's kind of cool because I'm looking to see, they're from different schools even. But this is pretty cool. I think it's really cool information. I'm curious. I'm excited about the fact that people are interested.
Yes.
Enough to start funding these little studies. And even though it was just a peek to what's going on, I feel like the more these type of things are normalized, the more we'll see maybe changes. Also, going back to not Innovative Pet Labs, but Animal Biome and how they're working with Hills, who is being sued. So I'll be curious to know how that's going to work out. But, working with Hills and able to show them what's going on with these dogs and what their gut microbiome looks like as they're being fed their diet. And these brands haven't ever looked at it this way.
Right.
And
that they'll share.
Yeah, they'll share. And and it's like part of it is like, well, I feel like I shouldn't say this, but I want to believe that as scientists, there's a natural curiosity to understand these things. But then the business side of it
is, but as a corporation,
the business side of it is like there's
no curiosity,
shareholders and bonuses and stuff to deal with. So it's like, put that in the drawer in the very back and let's get back to making our prescription diets. Well, good talk.
I think so. Any talk that involves Beavis and Butthead is a good talk as far as
I know. I think so. I love that you saw that too. That was so good.
Oh, and I love that you were talking about Elsbeth.
Oh my God, I love her so much. I started watching it simply because I was like, isn't that Arlene?
Yes. That was.
And then when I started watching the show, I was like, this character is very familiar. I've seen this character before. So I started looking it up and I was just like, what has she acted on? And she was on. And so then I was like, where is this character from? And that's, thank goodness for the internet. And I was like,
IMDb, I IMDb things all the time. We're always like, where do we know them from? Yeah.
I mean, and the show is so simple and basic, but it's so much
cute.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's so sweet. I love her friendship with the cop.
Yeah. And there is kind of like that other subplot going on of like, what is she really there for? And what's going on with the chief? And, so there is some extra intrigue,
I hope they don't cancel it. I hope it goes on because they're canceling everything. I mean, granted, a lot of stuff that they've canceled I shouldn't say it's not good. I just don't care.
Right.
I don't care if you cancel these things. I can give or take, but it's like whenever I fall in love with something, it's like, please don't take it away.
What else have I been watching? Oh, there's a show on Netflix. It's not a new show, and it's called Louder Milk. And the star of it is, you'll know him as the guy from Sex and the City who broke up with Carrie on a Post-it.
Burger.
Yes. And so I feel like this whole show is like a little bit in the vein of like if you have a Beavis and Butthead type sense of humor, maybe. But so it's basically like, it's happening in current times, but in the 90s, Burger, right, Louder Milk, he was like a big music critic, like Rolling Stone writer kind of guy, too cool for school, like knows all the 90s references and bands and stuff. And he went on to like have this drinking problem, and now he's like an AA leader, and he's like a total asshole. But he's like trying to like help people, but like he's like such an asshole at the same time. And so anyway, it's just very kind of funny because it's like like you kind of see that he has this like heart of gold, but like he just like does everything wrong and just like and then it has these crazy characters in it who are like in this group meeting and this whole crazy situation with his ex-wife. And anyway, it's just a very sort of like inappropriate humor kind of thing. And I'm totally late to the party on this show, but I like just started the 3rd season over the weekend, and I'm just so loving it. And Tim, like, he hasn't watched all of it, but every time he comes in, he's just like, oh my God, like every time he comes in, there's like something crazy happening. And
so 2 things that I watched. One, I finally watched that romantic comedy that did really good. Was it Anything But You? Or it's and I hate it because I don't know these actors' names. They're young actors, so I don't know.
I know inappropriate humor and 90s references. I don't know rom-coms.
So I know, and it made, I don't know, very popular. And I want to say, but it was it Anyone But You? There it is. I should say it, very popular, and it came up, Anyone But You. I watched it. It was okay. It was cute. I also watched a romantic comedy. I think it was on Netflix with, I'm so bad with people's names. Anne Hathaway. Look at me.
Oh.
And it was cute. And it was like she falls in love with a boy band person, and he's younger than her. And it was cute, but there was a part in the movie where he's on a world tour with the band, and they have their little like groupies with them, and they're all out at a pool. And so she has her bathing suit on, she's inside, and she's like looking at herself in the mirror, and she's looking at these, young girls. And yeah, exactly. That face is exactly what that scene. What they, in my opinion, should have done is like, she should have gone outside in her bathing suit, and one of the girls should have been like, oh my God, my mom has that bathing suit. And that would have been, to me, like a more of a gotten the message across. But you're looking at a very, very, very slender Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, like what kind of
and she adjusts her boobs a little bit. And it's like she I'm looking at her like, I haven't even had children, and I have to adjust my boobs more than you just did. So I get the message that you're trying to tell us, but it's offensive, and stop it, because you have nothing to be ashamed of. You should march out there, and those girls should hope that they look like you. When
exactly. Like, what kind of world do we want to live in where Anne Hathaway is like the fat old broad or something?
Fat shamed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, are you kidding? That was the only part of the movie that I was just like, okay, you guys, y'all Hollywood types need to maybe just run this by a regular person. Just have a regular person in the room so they can just be like, yeah, no, that doesn't work.
Like, I saw some of the photos from the Met Gala last night, and you're just like, what? I don't know. I can appreciate the artistry of it, but it's like, I'm just such a jeans and hoodie girl,
I love it because, well, first of all, when I heard the theme, and I think it was like, I'm going to butcher it, Last Year's Garden. That's not what the theme.
It's like
it was like the Garden of Time. Was that what it is? The Garden of Time? Yeah, Last Year's Garden. But
that would have been better.
So when I heard the theme, I was just like, I don't even know how they're gonna. What does that even mean?
Right. That's like, you're just like,
it was kind of cool seeing everyone's take, because everyone just basically came as a garden. But some of the people, there was a woman on TikTok, and I'll find it and send it to you. A woman on TikTok, and she's not like a fashion reviewer, but she decided she's just going to review them. And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I left her a comment that was like, I need you to do the fashion critique of everything from now on.
Red carpet. Yeah.
Because this was life. But she would be like, she had like, what is it? Taika Waititi had some weird outfit on, and it looked leather and stuff. And she was like, it just looks hot. Yeah, very hot. Just hot and sweaty. Just hot and sweaty.
Is it Lana Del Rey that had this like bird?
Yeah, the thing.
thing?
Yeah, with the branches.
Yeah.
And I saw another one where someone was like, "Oh, this is so," and I'm like, "No, it's not. It looks like someone had to dress up like they woke up, or they at 8:00 the night before you went to your parents and said tomorrow is Halloween dress up day, and so your parents are running around trying to pull together a costume for you so you can participate." That was
me.
That was my take on that one.
That was always my costumes, my look in school.
My favorite outfit was actually what's Schitt's Creek, Dan.
Oh,
His outfit. Did you see it?
No, I'll have to look.
It was just, I wanted to touch it because it was a black suit, but it did an ombre into flowers, and then the pants were flowers. Oh, okay. And it was just, to me, I was just like, how did they do that? Because it was just so clever.
I actually thought Cardi B looked amazing.
I didn't see her because I haven't seen everyone. I need to sit down and just do so Met Gala. And for all of you guys who are like, what is happening? I know we should have just signed off and had this conversation, separately, but, stay with us. Is that really hers, this whole black thing?
Yeah.
Wow. I just love thinking about people listening to this that are just like, what is happening? I love it when people have ridiculously huge dresses. Like I think the big yellow one that Rihanna had. So good for Cardi B.
Yeah, I thought that was a good look.
And I look at Kim Kardashian, I don't know if she just has big hips or if she had ribs taken out. But her waist was like insanely tiny.
She wears those like waist cincher things.
Yeah. I feel like that's not good for your organs.
Yeah, I don't think it's good for anything.
Yeah.
But I think she does also have big hips.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's been pretty cool just to watch. Ew, she looks and the sand, did you see the sand dress?
Yeah.
I didn't understand, especially because I thought it was just like looked like sand, but it was actually a sand dress and she couldn't move and they had to pick her up to carry her up the stairs.
I want to see that.
Yes, I saw that. And
I want to see her being like
trying to figure out how to do it. And I felt like you couldn't hear what they were saying, but in my mind, I came up with a conversation of, because it was two men where it's like, we're going to touch you, but we're not going to, but we're not, this isn't sexual, but we're going to try to figure out how to touch her so as not to break the dress and not to grope her. And then they just lifted her up and put her on to the next step.
That's what I want to see. They're not showing us the right things.
So, yeah, I love that one. Okay, that was a fun talk. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.